Welcome to the lower bracket finals of Templars of the Arena II. We have a rematch between Beasty and MarineLord facing off against Wam and PuppyPaw. This time around, we will have Beasty and MarineLord in command of the Ottomans and the HRE, facing off against the Mongols and the Rus. Now, we have seen some attempts in the previous rounds of the tournament when it comes to playing with Rus, but I haven't really been thoroughly impressed about the Rus itself. I think the only thing that really made me think is the Warrior Monk edition late game. I'm actually curious how that's going to be utilized by Wam. I can see that double buff of Warrior Monks plus Khan becoming relevant. For now, for round number 1, we do have some units popped out for both teams, actually. Spearman plus Men-at-Arms facing off against basically just Cavalry plus an Archer. That Archer needs to do a lot of work here, man. Needs to snipe as many spears as he can. Looks like it's a nice micro from Puppy and Wam, though, being able to pick off many of those spears before the knights die, but not well enough. Men-at-Arms also stay alive for an extended period of time. Technically, you don't have a ranged unit over here, so eventually this Khan can grind down whatever we have still left for Beasty and MarineLord. But I think this circle, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not something I actually looked into, but I think if you go outside this circle, you die. So this is like a little Battle Royale-esque. Yeah, that's exactly it. Units just die outside. So, yeah, you couldn't just micro this around. Wam and Puppy will miss out on the first round. Beasty and MarineLord are the first team on the board. And it looks like we will have a quite early focus on the Monk techs over here from the Abbey. You see, actually it was cancelled. Divine Light was cancelled. It's a very expensive tech, 750 food, at a stage where you have only 1800 to work with. That's a heavy commitment. Now, looks like instead we'll see Wam and Puppy commit to units, but same is going to be the approach taken by MarineLord and Beasty, meaning that you have that feeling that MarineLord and Beasty have the upper hand here. They have a Mangonel to work with, they have one more crossbow, and they have HRE Men-at-Arms over just generic Men-at-Arms here from the Mongols. Obviously, Mongols do have the Khan out here to help out. There is also Warrior Monk with the buff, but especially if those crossbows can focus down the Warrior Monk like they do, it should be an easy fight here for Beasty and MarineLord. Nice dodges over here coming in from Wam, dodging the Mangonel shot. Second volley now on the way. Beautiful dodge once again. But while this was all happening, most of the Man-at-Arms have been focused down. Good micro still, retreating over here, but at this pace, those HRE Men-at-Arms with the movement bonus, they will just catch up to the crossbows. And it looks like Beasty and MarineLord should be able to secure this round. They're cleaning up the last remains of the army from Wam and Puppy. Beasty and MarineLord will be the second point, or will have the second point on board. They will be the team with the second point on board. And it will have to, well, we'll have to see what Wam and Puppy do here for round number 3. We haven't really seen a strong focus on techs in either of these rounds so far, from either of the teams, actually. And it looks like Wam and Puppy will once again just go for the full army focus. This time around, it's going to be archers, but we will see some of those Monk techs creep in here, especially Fervor is going to come in now for Wam. He opted to just skip Divine Light for the time being. It's going to be Men-at-Arms plus the archers, and this is the first time that Beast and MarineLord opt to go for a tech play here. I actually like this a lot for Beast and MarineLord, because they have a 2-0 lead. This is one of those moments where they can afford to forfeit a round to get extra advantage in round number 4. Yeah, this is going to be a cleanup very quickly. You see units have just been deleted by Beast and MarineLord. They know that they cannot win that fight. There is no point dragging it out. And now, this is round number 4. We will have, once again, Archer focus from Wam. He's slowly been grabbing these Monk techs, so this is where the Warrior Monks will really start coming online for Wam. And it's going to be Horsemen for Puppy. We haven't really seen a lot of Mongol Horsemen, but it could work out, especially if you don't have a lot of spears, and that's exactly the case over here for Beast and MarineLord. They just keep pounding it with the identical composition, this Men-at-Arm plus crossbow comp that we've seen Puppy and Wam use very frequently in previous rounds, and even in the first edition of the tournament. I feel like this comp is extremely powerful, but the one that we have for Puppy and Wam right now should be able to dominate it. Here come the Horsemen, Mangonel Fire It's going to try and focus the crossbows. Crossbows are pushing back the men-at-arms. Nice wrap around with the horsemen over here. Manganolf are actually focusing on the warrior monks, and the warrior monks do provide that buff out there. That's actually a big factor. That warrior monk buff coming in here. Manganol still alive, though. Beautiful job from Beasty+MarineLord protecting this Manganol. Crossbows need to do a lot of work still with the men-at-arms of Beasty, though. And you feel like the horsemen just got picked off very quickly over here. Men-at-arms, they were kept alive for so long because Wam had to dodge all those Manganol shots. Still, they could focus down the crossbows. They could also focus down these remaining men-at-arms. This could still go either way, but you feel like this is an advantage for Team Beasty. And now, indeed, it is a cleanup. Beasty+MarineLord will secure the 3rd round on the board. And when it comes down to what swung this round in their favor, you feel like it all comes down to that Manganol being protected. The crossbows of Wam always had to readjust, so they missed out on a couple of volleys that they could have fired. That damage output missing from the battle is something that kept MarineLord's men-at-arms alive a lot longer, and they were able to take some good fights against those horsemen. So, again, we are seeing one of those instances where Beast and MarineLord are just doing such a terrific job protecting those siege weapons. And that has been the theme for this team for a long time. Even in the previous edition of the tournament, a lot of their clutch plays came down to siege being well protected. And it's a team effort. MarineLord is doing a great job body blocking with his units, but also it's the positioning that comes in from Beasty that makes it viable for MarineLord to body block. They step back from this round. They will grab the techs. They are now in Imperial. And on the other side, Imp is going to come in as well for Wam and Puppy. Looks like they want to go for quite a few techs over here, grabbing some Springald techs. We will have Infantry. This is for Spearman, and Elite Army Tactics also coming in for Puppy. But this is actually dicey. Look at this. Wam and Puppy want to go for the techs. But it's always difficult to do when you're down by a point or even 2. Because in this case, you forfeit a round, and you basically just increase the lead that your opponent already has. This is going to be an easy win, obviously, for Beasty and MarineLord here, because Puppy and Wam only have a Springald. But this puts Beasty and MarineLord on a map point. So I'm really not convinced by this tech approach here for Wam and Puppy. I think that's a strategy that you do either when the two teams are even on the scoreboard, or when you have the lead. I feel like here they probably should have committed to Army, see what they can salvage out of this, because as much as they might have the tech advantage for this round, that's going to equalize for round number 8, and Beast and MarineLord want to secure this game in round number 8. They don't care about round number 7 that much. In fact, they could easily afford to just step back from this round, grab the techs, and then play an even-Steven round. They have the map point, they have multiple opportunities to secure this game. Now it's going to be Spearman plus a lot of Streltsy. We've seen attempts at using Streltsy, and it all comes down to how significant the opponent's ranged army is. In this instance, this could work well. The Landsknechte, they are fragile, and the Sipahis will be dispatched by the Spearman. Manganol is getting some good volleys out there. Landsknechte have to split up. They're very fragile, but they can do a lot of damage up close. Looks like they will swing their two-handed swords a couple of times. They do some decent damage over here, and don't forget, Streltsy do a lot of overkill damage on them, so these Landsknechte are doing work over here, but as they disappear, it's only the Sipahi left to fight the Spearman, and it will be insufficient. PuppyPaw and Wam will secure this round, getting a little closer to Beast and MarineLord, but it is still MarineLord and Beasty with the map point. It's basically even techs now, so this is where it all comes down to unit compositions. Now, this comp of Spearman and Streltsy worked well. How does Beasty and MarineLord fight this? I feel like you play mass archers. We are actually seeing the archer upgrade coming in here for Beasty. He's opting to go for crossbows for the time being. Maybe he's anticipating men-at-arms to be mixed in now. Maybe some Kashyyyk. It wouldn't be unprecedented from Mongols to play late-game Kashyyyk. But if Beasty went for full archers here, they would dominate this battle. There's a Quaverin against a single Springald when it comes to anti-siege. That actually gives a bit of an advantage for Beasty and MarineLord. But it comes down to how you use it. Springald trying to get some shots out. Here Quaverin actually not focusing on the siege weapons. Big melee ensuing in the middle. Streltsy doing a decent job from the back line, Spearman holding the line for the time being. Mangonel, though, being focused down by the Corverin. Mangonels have been traded off. Corverin now sniping down that Springald. From now on, this Corverin can just fire from the back line, but the front line here for Beast and MarineLord is disappearing. Streltsy is still getting closer and closer, and you cannot really retreat forever. You feel like Wam and Puppy have the momentum to secure this round, and it is going to come down to the final 9th round to decide who has the first point on the board in this best of 3. This composition, we talked about this a couple of times in some of the previous sets I've cast in this tournament. Ruse is your late game powerhouse. If you can get to Mass Streltsy and they do not have a natural predator like Mass Siege or Mass Archers, they will be extremely dominant. And Wam and Puppy are just riding that composition. Now, you see they don't even go for any more Siege. It's just full Streltsy, Spearman, supported by some Warrior Monks. Actually love the addition of Warrior Monks. Makes your Streltsy survive a lot more in melee in case your opponent flanks them with some cavalry or even infantry. And there is even, obviously, the combat element of the Warrior Monks. On the other side, it's going to be Mass Archers by Beasty, though. This is what I was concerned about when it comes to the composition of Wam and Puppy. And in general, their reluctance to switch compositions. Now Beasty has Archers. Previous battle, that composition for Beast and MarineLord was inferior to what Wam and Puppy have here. I don't think it's the case over here. Archers will do just so well against the Spears and the Streltsy as well. Spears will be traded quickly over here, but critically, the Great Bombard gets the snipe on the Khan out there, so the buff is going to be removed. On the other side, the Meteor is still helping out. This is a big difference maker with one team having the buff, the other lacking it. And the other thing is that the Streltsy do so much more of an overkill damage on these units than the Archers do. The damage output is just a lot more effective from these Archers, and even though the Matter is now gone, these Archers will just dominate the Streltsy. This switching composition from Beast and MarineLord to dominate the comp that you have for Wam and PuppyPaw will secure game number 1 for them, and with that, they will move on to a 1-0 lead in this best of 3. We have seen a lot of mind games in this game, I feel. You had this strong composition for Wam and PuppyPaw, and this is something I've kind of highlighted in one of the previous games. It's very difficult to decide if you want to switch away from a powerful composition or you want to retain it. Wam and Puppy opted to retain it because it just felt so oppressive. But you had Beast and MarineLord with the opportunity to make adjustments because they had that lead. And part of that lead actually came from the fact that we had that weird tech forfeit I highlighted in the middle of the game from Wam and Puppy. So they had a bit of a breathing room to experiment in. And for the second time they faced this Mass Spear plus Mass Streltsy composition, they were able to bring in an army that was able to hard counter it and ultimately secure the round. Welcome to round number 2. We have once again Wam and Puppy facing off against Beasty and MarineLord. This is the lower bracket finals of Templars of the Arena II. And we will have Beasty once again with the Ottomans. This time around, MarineLord is going to play his French. And on the other side, it is going to be the Mongols for Puppy and the Chinese for Wam. Now, we have seen teams attempting to play around the Chinese, and it has been a pretty effective late-game civilization. But the main direction that the players were heading towards when it comes to late game was Nest of Bees. And we have seen how mass infantry can just get a good surround on the Nest of Bees and wipe them out. So I'm not fully convinced about the Chinese just now, but it looks like we will have a big commitment to units for both sides over here. Chukanu, supported by Spearman. Not something that Beast and MarineLord can match up well against. The Knights get dispatched quickly, and you see, Beast and MarineLord don't even bother fighting this. They just go into Castle Age, but this is going to be a point on the board for Wam and Puppy. This is a valuable point because even in the previous game that these teams have played, we have seen a strong focus on late game from Wam and Puppy. And with this combination of civilizations, they once again probably plan to focus on late game. So securing an early game point is definitely great value for them. Looks like they will just give that right back as they will go for full techs and Beast and MarineLord will go for army. So it's going to be one apiece after round number 2. And we will have both teams in Castle Age. We have Whistling Arrows on the way. for PuppyPaw, for the con buff. And we see some siege techs moving in here for Wam. It's kind of an indicator. That he wants to go for Nest of Bees eventually. We'll have to see how quickly he goes for them. I feel like early Nest of Bees don't have great value here, 1 or 2 of them. But once you get to late game, once you can afford like 7, 8 Nest of Bees, it can be extremely oppressive. Looks like it's going to be crossbows plus a Nest of Bees for Wam. There is a Springald even. There's definitely a lot of focus here from Wam and Puppy to protect that single piece of Nest of Bees. They do not want an enemy Springald sniping it down. This single Nest of Bees is their key piece of utility for this round. But it's not going to amount too much because Beasty and MarineLord actually step back for techs over here once again. Heavy focus on cavalry coming in here for Beasty, you see. He's going Sipahi, but he's also teching into spears. MarineLord wants to go for crossbows though, or, well, Arbaletier, which, as we've discussed numerous times in this cast, or, well, not in this specific cast, but in some of the previous arena casts, it's one of the most effective units in arena mode. So, you see Beasty and MarineLord also focusing on that mid-late game. I think this is going to be a heavy unit round for Beasty and MarineLord, but they also rush the Imperial here. On the other side, it's going to be Castle Age for Wam and Puppy. You feel like they want to pounce on this Castle Age though. They have a 1-point lead. If they go heavy on the army, they probably can secure this round. Here's why. Beasty and MarineLord opted to go into Imperial, so they want to grab some Imperial Age techs. But it also means that their numbers won't be amazing. It's going to be pretty much even numbers though, so I might have underestimated what Beasty and MarineLord can afford here. Looks like numbers will be fairly even, which kind of means that MarineLord and Beasty not only will have the tech advantage with the elite upgrades coming in, they will also have the numbers advantage here. It's 51 to 43. There's a single piece of Nest of Bees though, Springwoods. They will have to trade shots over here. Springwoods will focus each other, but that is just going to be an even trade. Arbaletier firing from the backline. This is a quicker shot for Beasty, and that takes down the Springald that was out there from Puppy and Wam. Now the Nest of Bees is in danger. Arbaletier is standing and fighting though, but there's the Khan with the Coral Iora healing up those troops. Nest of Bees finally gotten rid of, and it looks like now the Arbaletier can stand and fight. With the Pavisa deployed, these crossbows can't do much against them, and this is going to be a point on the board for Beasty and MarineLord. I feel like you cannot understate the significance of that slightly quicker shot from that Springald for Beasty. That was the moment where Wam and Puppy lost their own anti-siege, and from that point on, that Nest of Bees was basically eliminated from the battle. And if the Nest of Bees was still available, you would have probably threatened those Arbaletier a lot more. You force them to move, that removes the Pavisa buff. So I feel like that quick shot from Beasty to take down the enemy Springald is probably what at least was a heavy contributor to the success of Beasty and MarineLord in this round. Imperial Age now in for both sides. Needless to say, China is a late game powerhouse, and we do see hand cannoneers being in the mix here. Although it looks like it's just going to be techs now. Wam and PuppyPaw kind of skip units. Just go for the techs. Beast and MarineLord will take the lead. It's not like they have much. Actually, never mind. This is so tricky. Both teams went for the techs. Now we have a Khan over here that's super sturdy and it heals itself. The Meter cannot fight, and the Springald has a minimum range. Oh boy, we've seen Puppy do this once before, where he just won a round with a single unit. I thought there was a little bit more of a commitment from Beast and MarineLord, and if they had something like a single horseman, this would be near impossible for Puppy, but now that Khan actually secures the round for them, Beast and MarineLord just delete their units, realizing that they cannot kill the Khan. Oh boy, this is a big win here for Wam and Puppy. 5th round will be secured, and this was a round where both teams went for techs, so no one's going to have a major tech advantage. But Wam and Puppy were able to take this freebie and now move on to a 3-2 lead. Ottoman Men-at-Arms, a great bombard and some Arbaletier here for Beasty and MarineLord. Other side, it's going to be hand cannon and spear, but you still see a lot of techs just now coming in for Puppy. Kind of the same for Wam. So it looks like they are taking a step back over here, allowing the score to even out, but trying to gain an upper hand when it comes to technology. I'm not so sold on this. I feel like these power spikes of tech get less and less significant as the game goes on. So I think for round number 7, it's going to be way less impactful. And I also feel like there is a bit of a disconnect here. Your teammate went for a lot of spears. They just get quickly dispatched. You didn't go for any support units. So it's not like your teammate had a lot of investment into technologies. He invested quite a lot into units as well. And I feel like you just allowed Beast and MarineLord to creep back up. Anyway, at least Wam and Puppy saw the composition here from Beast and MarineLord, and now they go heavy on the siege. 5 Nest of Beasts supported by some Spearmen. PuppyPaw, I think, is going to play either spears into Men-at-Arms or something like that. It's going to be just 4 spears. This is a composition that can work, mainly because MarineLord wants to go Arbaletier. That's his go-to unit. But you also have to be cautious here, especially because Beastie could just go full Men-at-Arms, and then your spears might not hold long enough. Here, the key thing is that the Spearman is just a free meat shield unit. All you want is as many units to body block the Men-at-Arms as possible. You want the Nest of Beasts to deal the damage. But here's the problem. There are some Springolds, and there are some Great Bombards as well. Springolds will trade, but the Great Bombards should be able to focus down the Nest of Bees. First volley is going to come out over here, crossbows firing from the back line. Nest of Bees slowly being picked apart by the Great Bombards, but they are still able to land some beautiful hits over here. Colors are a little difficult to decipher over here, everybody playing with warm colors, but you feel like the front line is just disappearing over here for Beastie and MarineLord. Nest of Bees still out there. Arbaletier without the Pavisa deployed. Now Nest of Bees are firing on them. And this flood of spears supported by the Nest of Bees is just too overwhelming. It really comes down to just the mass spears. You cannot really micro away from that many spears. If you do, you forfeit your siege. And if you forfeit your siege, you don't have a tool to deal with the Nest of Bees. It is Wam and Puppy who move on to map point over here with this round secured. And let's see if they actually go for something similar. I think this is the round where Beast and MarineLord have to consider playing Men-at-Arms. Rebordoquin for Beastie. Okay. Now, Rebordoquin could work, but Wam goes for Grenadiers. All right. This is not a matchup that we commonly see. Grenadiers could do so much against these spears. And I feel like as much as in a previous round, I felt like Wam and PuppyPaw were reluctant to change compositions. Now they kind of rotate them. And they rotate them in an impressive fashion. I love these sharp changes in the compositions. You go from Mass Spear Nest of Bees into no siege units. Now it's only Grenadiers. So all the anti-siege that MarineLord and Beastie purchased is basically useless. Those Springolds are almost useless other than trying to snipe down the Khan. Nicely microed away by Puppy and Wam. Grenadiers were standing their ground on the front line though, which I kind of consider a miss-micro over here. They were sniped down so quickly, and the Rebordoquin are also great tools of destruction over here against the infantry. Rebordoquin haven't been surrounded early on, and they did a lot of damage. Looks like Beastie and MarineLord will secure this round, but it mostly comes down to the Rebordoquin and the Grenadiers dying quickly. It wasn't really about these Springolds. In fact, I think Puppy and Wam had a good read on what Beastie and MarineLord want to do. I just feel like the Grenadiers died way too quickly. I'm also unsure whether Grenadiers were actually the right unit for this battle, mainly because they're very fragile, so if you find any opportunity to start focusing them in melee, or even your opponent has a single Mangonel from the back line, it's easy to get rid of them. Now it looks like Beastie wants to stick with the same composition. Rebordoquin and Springolds. Mass Springolds for MarineLord. The goal here is to just have the Rebordoquin fire endless volleys, and they are devastating in close combat. This is, by the way, map point for either side, so whoever wins this round will secure game number 2. If MarineLord and Beastie win this, they move on to the grand finals of the event as well. A lot of Springolds out there for them. Some Springolds out there too for Wam. He's got the Clock Tower buff as well on them. But numbers should be favoring Beast and MarineLord here. Question is, what can the Rebordoquin do? They've yet to set up. Rebordoquin are very slow to reach the battlefield here, and they're not being shielded. This is big. The Spearman managed to get an angle on these Rebordoquin, so many of these valuable siege weapons get wiped out. And the Nest of Bees, they haven't been focused down by the Springolds either. They just wiped out all of the Arbaletier. These Nest of Bees did so much for this round. Despite the fact that we had 8 Springles for MarineLord, these Nest of Bees reigned supreme, and this is a cleanup here for Wam and PuppyPaw. They won't give up on this tournament. They want the decider game here in the lower bracket finals, and boy oh boy are they going to be getting it. We will have to take a look at game number 3 to decide who gets back into the grand finals to face off against a team coming from the winner's bracket. Welcome to the decider game of Beasty+MarineLord versus Wam and PuppyPaw. The winning team will move into the grand finals to face off the team that's coming from the winner's bracket, and we will have Wam and Puppy with the HRE and the Rus facing off against Beasty+MarineLord with the French and the Chinese. Now, one of the more uncharacteristic things I'm noticing over here right from the get-go is how Beasty's playing the French and MarineLord is playing the Chinese. This is unconventional. Chinese is usually the civilization that you associate with Siege, and you usually have Beasty play the Siege component, and then, Beasty play the Siege component, and then MarineLord play that support unit component. So I'm actually curious how Beasty is going to utilize the French in this game, because I feel like the civilizations being flipped between these two is probably something I would have called more conventional. Compositions are identical for game number 1, by the way. It's Rus Knights, supported by Chinese Spearmen, versus the HRE Spearmen and French Knights. Should be a slight advantage to the French over here, but it really comes down to micro, and it looks like MarineLord is doing a great job keeping his Spearmen alive. The Knights will go down, and indeed, slightly better micro leads to a game number 1, or rather, round number 1 victory here for Beasty and MarineLord. This really just came down to micro. Obviously, you had a bit of an advantage from the French Knights, but it comes down to how many hits you can land with your Spearmen on the enemy Knights. It looks like Wam and Puppy will skip this round, just go for the full techs, especially all the infantry techs over here for the HRE. I highlighted in one of the previous games how I kind of dislike them going for a tech round when they are down by a point. But we've also seen that they want to focus on late game. So this is all about securing those key technologies, especially with the HRE. Most of the key techs you need, the infantry techs, maces, 200 weapons, marching drills, they become available early Castle Age. So they're willing to forfeit a round over here to get that momentum, and they want to start just pounding the rock when they get to Imperial. Likely, infantry plus Streltsy will be their primary comp. Now, looks like for this round, we are going to have Wam playing into Archers. Beasty and MarineLord right now at 2 points. They're up to Castle Age. Not yet committed to units, though. It's going to be Men-at-Arms and Archers for now for Wam. They might be anticipating Arbaletier from Beasty, and it's not unprecedented to see the French go for Arbaletier. Though usually in these round number 3, round number 4 timings, in this early Castle Age window, French often still stick with the Knights. But Beasty is going to do neither. We're just going to have basically full techs here for both players. MarineLord adds a couple of units just to be sure that in case Wam and Puppy go for techs themselves, they can just win around here. But really, as you see, they just delete their units knowing that they won't win this fight. So now, we have good techs for both teams. This is where the fun really begins. And it's going to be Warrior Monks coming in for Wam. Now, we haven't seen a lot of Warrior Monk. Actually, he has gotten the Warrior Monk techs. That's huge. So these are super pricey technologies, but it also gives you huge buffs. And we have seen how civilizations with some sort of a combat buff, talk about the Ottomans with the Matter, English with the network of citadels provided by the king, or the Khan with the Coral Diora. These civilizations are often very dominant. So you want to try and replicate this with a civilization that hasn't been banned. And the way you do this is that you go for the Warrior Monks with the Rus. It's going to be Archers and the Men-at-Arms against the Veteran, or against the Arbaletier and Palace Guards. This should be easily winnable with the composition that Wam and PuppyPaw has, but it comes down to how quickly those Arbaletier are gotten rid of. And also, how many Palace Guards can get close to these Archers. Palace Guards manage to close the distance, and the Archers are focusing a lot of these Palace Guards over here instead of focusing the enemy Arbaletier. Many of the HRE men-at-arms are still alive, though they're slowly getting rid of these palace guards. Numbers are looking better for Wam and PuppyPaw, and indeed, they are slowly cleaning this up, partly because the Arbaletri haven't really been focusing many of the men-at-arms. They've been focusing some of the archers, and this is why these men-at-arms can still deal with the palace guards. This is a very delicate battle that could have gone either way, and it really comes down to two things. A, can the Arbaletri focus down the HRE men-at-arms? And B, can the archers kill the Arbaletri before they do that? The only way for Wam and Puppy to deal with the palace guards was through the HRE men-at-arms. So it's a matter of how quickly those die and how many palace guards they can take down before they do. In this battle, they were kept alive for quite a while. Arbaletri numbers have been decimated by the archers, and the men-at-arms were just able to deal with the palace guards. This evens out the scoreline at 2 apiece as we head to Imperial. And it looks like we will have a strong commitment to techs from Beasty and MarineLord, though we will have some Arbaletri on the field, and this is why this is crucial. Both teams are going for techs, but we only see a single archer for Wam and Puppy. On the other side, Beasty's committing some resources to Arbaletri, but it's not a huge commitment. He's still going to have good technologies, and this is also going to put a score on the board for them. In these rounds where both teams go for techs, this slight advantage, just having 5 more units than your opponent, is so crucial. This allows you to basically secure a round as a freebie. Now we have a 3-2 lead for Beasty and MarineLord. And it looks like now we're going to have some coverings here for PuppyPaw. They anticipate Nest of Bees coming in from MarineLord, and boy oh boy are they right. MarineLord is going to go for Nest of Bees. Springolds will be mixed in too. Now, these are clock tower weapons, which makes it much more difficult for Culverins to one-shot them. And it's actually going to be a key piece of the strategy here for Puppy and Wam. This is all about get rid of the Nest of Bees and then focus down the Arbaletri. This is a very clever strategy by Wam and Puppy, and I love it. It all comes down to how well you get rid of those Nest of Bees. But you know that the French player wants to go Arbaletri. You think that the Chinese player will go Nest of Bees. Oh, beautiful volleys, though. Nest of Bees. This is a kamikaze strike here by Wam, and I feel like this has been grossly misplayed by Wam and Puppy. This is the most one-sided cleanup I have seen in the entire series so far. Let's talk about this, because this was such an interesting round to look at, despite the fact that this was so short. So, you anticipate the Chinese to play with Nest of Bees. You anticipate the French to play with Arbaletri. So what do you say? You bring in Anti-Siege to get rid of the Nest of Bees, and then just let the archers deal with the Arbaletri. It works well, given that you get rid of the Nest of Bees. Now, one of the key things here for MarineLord and Beasty was that they brought in Anti-Siege themselves. They had the Springolds to push back the Culverins with, and also for whatever reason, Wam decided to go very bloodthirsty with the archers. Maybe they felt like they cannot snipe down the Nest of Bees and they just need to close distance. But whichever the case, his archers just got massacred by the Nest of Bees, giving a very decisive round victory here for Beasty and MarineLord, and this is moving them into match point, 1 round away from getting their spot in the grand finals. They had a run in the lower bracket in the first edition of the tournament. Boy oh boy are they close to repeating that. This time we will have a lot of archers, a lot of spearmen support as well, with warrior monks as well. On the other side, you do have spears too. These are Chinese spearmen. They actually have more HP. You see 172 against 156. But the big thing is that the Arbaletri will have the Pavisa deployed. Wam and Puppy are waiting for the Pavisa to disappear. I think it's going to disappear at like 35 seconds left from the regain. But you have to be cautious because the circle is shrinking, so you don't want to stay outside of it. Still, no tools to force away the enemy from these defensive positions at the Arbaletri, so you need to wait it out. And as Pavisa disappears, there is going to be the charge coming in. Lovely move. And now with the Warrior Monks joining the fight as well, there is going to be the Saint's Blessing coming in for the Archers. Spearmen will trade against each other, but the Archers are just so superior against the Arbaletri and the Spears as well. Decisive win here for Wam and PuppyPaw using the Archers. I love to see the patience that they've had waiting out the Pavisa to disappear, although I don't think that they needed that. They simply needed to just snipe down the Spears first, and then by the time they start focusing the Arbaletri, the Pavisa probably would have been disappeared anyways. But Regardless, this is a win here for Wam and Puppy. They keep their hopes alive as we head into round number 8. Beasty and MarineLord. Let's see how they shake things up here. You have the Spirit Way, by the way. You can go for Fire Lancers, but given that your opponent goes for Spears, it would be suicidal. Just a side note I wanted to add. Now, one thing that could be intriguing to look at is Mass Chukunu, actually. Chukunu cost the same as Archers, but there could definitely be some intrigue in this. It's just the fact that they haven't gotten the text for them. Looks like it's going to be rinse and repeat, though, for Beast and MarineLord. They go for Nest of Bees. This time they go for Anti-Siege, and they are wise to do it, because Puppy and Wam are back to this double Culverin addition to try and snipe the Siege. Beasty goes for a Reboldaquin, though. This is a full Siege comp, and I hate it. I hate this so much. If the Spearman can close distance, it can be a so swift defeat. Now, Reboldaquin can fire very close, and that could be a game changer. But I feel like Wam and Puppy should be able to deal with this. They need to focus the Reboldaquin first, then close the distance on the Nest of Bees. That's exactly what they're doing. Beautiful wraparound, and they should be able to clean this up with ease. This is why I'm just not a big believer in these full Siege comps. They are so easy to deal with once you close the distance, and that's exactly what Wam and Puppy did. It all comes down to this. One round to decide who gets into the grand finals of this event. It's going to be full infantry from Wam and Puppy. They once again miss out on the Culverins. They've been kind of shifting back and forth between this full infantry versus full infantry plus anti-siege composition. And on the other side, for the first time for quite a while, there's going to be no siege either. It's going to be Arbaletier and, critically, Palace Guards. Now, this is huge, because you do have some men-at-arms here for Puppy, but the numbers are looking a lot better for MarineLord. This is going to be a very similar fight to one of the previous rounds. It's going to come down to how many of these men-at-arms will stay alive, and what these men-at-arms can do against the Palace Guards. If you lose the men-at-arms before the Palace Guards are gotten rid of, it's all over. Pavisa deployed. This time around, Puppy and Wam won't wait for it. They are just committing against this one. But this could be an underwhelming fight for them. They are losing the men-at-arms, although most of the Arbaletier are actually focusing down the Spearman over here. Not the best use of the Arbaletier over here for Beasty and MarineLord, but it looks like Palace Guards just being so tanky with that high HP. Plus the fact that the Archers have been focusing the Palace Guards as well makes this a reasonable fight for Beasty and MarineLord. You see quite a few Palace Guards are still alive. They're trying to preserve some numbers to deal with the Archers. Pavise slowly recharging, but this is a fight in which the Archers can take a direct fight against Arbaletier that do not have the Pavise. Still, numbers looking a lot better for Beasty and MarineLord, and it looks like they will be able to secure this round, and with that, the whole set. You feel like both of these teams struggle to focus down the key enemy units in this final engagement, but maybe the raw numbers, maybe just the brute force survivability of the army from MarineLord and Beasty kind of prevailed here. The Spearmen were just a non-factor, essentially, from Puppy and Wam. That's probably what made the difference between these two teams. The Spearmen just died so quickly, and they had so little impact when it comes to damage output. And on the other side, the Palace Guards, they just paid for their price so much better. In the first edition of this tournament, Beast and MarineLord got knocked to the lower bracket quite early. They went through the lower bracket, got back into the grand finals, and they won it. Here, they got knocked down to the lower bracket as well. They go through the lower bracket, now dispatch the team that actually knocked them down to the lower bracket. They move back up into the grand finals. We will have to see if they can once again prevail in the grand finals, or whether they actually cannot repeat the same story that they had in the previous edition of the tournament. If you do not want to miss that cast, I recommend you to just subscribe to the channel. Those metrics also help me a lot continue what I do and also get new opportunities. So if you want to support the channel in such fashion, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you will also enjoy the grand finals that will be coming up very soon here on YouTube as well.